Usually when we talk about the future of transportation, there's this expectation of a sudden cinematic revolution.
Right, like a movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like you wake up one morning, look out your window, and boom, everyone is instantly zipping around in these levitating chrome
The
paws.
whole sky is filled with flying taxis.
Right. And your local, I don't know, dingy corner gas station has magically transformed into some glowing monolithic obelisk overnight.
Yeah, it's a very binary way of thinking. We tend to believe we're either entirely stuck in the dark ages of combustion engines and gridlock, or, we've suddenly arrived at this flawless sci-fi utopia.
Right. It was either completely broken or perfectly clean. But then, you actually look at the data.
Hmm.
When you step into the real-world rollout of electrification and autonomy, that sci-fi movie suddenly looks a lot more like a complex, slightly messy construction site.
It really does.
And that is exactly why I'm so excited to welcome you to today's deep dive. I'll be your host, and I'm joined by our resident transportation expert to help guide us through all this.
Hey there. Yeah, happy to be here for this one.
We have a pretty massive stack of sources today. We're pulling from Q2 2026 auto sales data, a bunch of infrastructure press releases, and even the latest commercial launch updates for autonomous vehicles down in Las Vegas.
Yeah, a really diverse cross-section today.
Exactly. And our mission here is to just, cut right through the hype. We want to look at the actual maturation of this entire ecosystem.
Because while the headlines out there, they love to scream about booms and busts, right? Like claiming the sky is falling on electric vehicles one day and then declaring them this absolute miracle cure the next.
Right. The whiplash is real.
Yeah. But the real story, the one actually hidden in the data, is about how these technologies are quietly, methodically becoming practical, everyday realities. I mean, we're witnessing stabilization.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can even talk about futuristic robotaxis and massive supercharging hubs, we have to look at what consumers are actually driving off the dealership lots right now.
The foundational stuff.
Yeah. And the auto sales data for the first half of 2026, this is from Cox Automotive, gives us a pretty serious reality check. The overall U.S. new vehicle market is declining slightly, down about 2.2%, but hybrid sales, they're jumping up by about 9%.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the underlying consumer psychology.
So?
Well, you have elevated gas prices driving people toward fuel efficiency, obviously, and automakers are responding by making hybrid technology the default. Like some really popular nameplates that used to be strictly gas-powered are now just hybrid only.
Oh, wow, right.
Yeah, so it proves consumers aren't rejecting electrification at all. They're demanding a practical transition that, meets their current lifestyle comfort levels. They want the immediate fuel savings, but without the underlying range anxiety.
Right, which contrasts heavily with the pure EV story right now, because EV sales hit, let me check, 247,226 in the second quarter of 2026.
Right.
Now, that's actually up 14.7% from the first quarter, but it is down 20.5% compared to the same time in 2025.
Which, sounds incredibly alarming if you only read the top line of a news article.
Yeah, 20% drop sounds like a disaster.
It does. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the rate of that drop is actually slowing down significantly. So look at the fourth quarter of 2025. Sales were down over 36% year over year then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then in Q1 of 2026, they were down 27.3%. Now it's 20.5%. So the data is showing us the market is finally finding its floor. It's stabilizing after a very sharp correction.
We also have to remember the context of that 2025 baseline, too. I mean, in Q3 of 2025, EV market share hit a record 10.6%. But that was largely because buyers were rushing the dealerships to take advantage of those expiring government incentives.
Exactly. It was an artificial spike.
Right. Now, in Q2 2026, market share is sitting at 5.8%. So it honestly feels to me like the EV market is like a hit TV show entering its third season.
Okay, I like where this is going. Walk me through that.
Well, season one was the viral hype, right? Everyone's talking about it. The early adopters were completely obsessed. You had long wait lists just to get a car.
The honeymoon phase.
Exactly. Then season two suffered a bit of a sophomore slump as those financial incentives dried up and the pure novelty just kind of wore off.
Right, yeah.
So now, entering season three, the hype has faded. The show just has to settle into a steady, reliable rhythm to keep its core audience and slowly build from there.
That's a perfect analogy because the early adopters, the people willing to tolerate a little friction for the sake of new technology, they already have their vehicle.
They're tapped out.
Exactly. So to cross the chasm to the mass market, automakers have to deliver on undeniable utility. And we're seeing major shifts in who is actually delivering that right now.
Yeah. Though Tesla is still the undisputed king, right? I mean, they account for roughly half of all EV sales in the U.S., driven almost entirely by the Model Y and Model 3.
They are, yeah. But their sales did dip 10% in the first half of the year.
While the legacy brands are making some really serious moves, Chevrolet is a distant second, followed by Hyundai and Cadillac. And then you have Toyota and Subaru, who actually doubled their EV volume year over year. I mean, Toyota is now in the top 5 for EV sellers in the U.S.
Which is huge. And it proves the long-term trajectory is positive. But this next phase of growth, it isn't just about showing off cool battery chemistry anymore.
Right.
It's about translating those technological advances into affordability, utility, and honestly, a completely seamless ownership experience. And if we look at consumer hesitation to make that leap to get past that 5.8% market share, it almost always ties back to one physical barrier.
The plug.
Yes, the plug.
The charging infrastructure. Because if standardizing the vehicle solves the consumer's everyday commute problem, it definitely doesn't solve the road trip problem.
No, not at all.
If this market is going to mature, public charging has to mimic, or honestly beat, the convenience of the corner gas station.
And we are seeing the industry react to that. The demand on the public network is exploding right now. Recent reports show consumer demand on the EVgo network has skyrocketed 700% in just 3 years.
700%. I mean, that is just massive.
It's unbelievable. And they're responding to that demand with a massive rollout of what they're calling EVgo superchargers.
Right.
These are V4 chargers capable of up to 500 kilowatts and 1,000 volts, hitting the market starting this fall.
But let's translate those technical specs for a second, right? Because to the average driver, 500 kilowatts is just a giant number. It doesn't mean anything.
Fair point.
What does that actually mean for the person sitting in the driver's seat?
It means radical time savings. Assuming the vehicle's internal battery architecture can actually accept power at that rate, a 500 kilowatt charger can add roughly 100 miles of range in just a few minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. We're finally approaching the natural cadence of a traditional gas station trip. You plug in, you grab a coffee, use the restroom, and by the time you're out, your car's ready to go.
And we're already seeing the blueprints for what this looks like in the real world. A massive new flagship station just opened in Warren, Michigan.
Oh, yeah, the new EVgo one.
Yeah. It's a 12-stall hub located at a major grocery store, directly across from the GM Global Technical Center. Which is brilliant real estate, honestly, considering the EV population in Michigan grew 6 times over between 2021 and 2025.
The location is highly strategic, for sure, but the physical design of the station is what really signals maturation to me.
Yes.
This site features heavy-duty overhead canopies, so you aren't standing out in the pouring rain or blistering sun while handling a heavy cable, and crucially, it features pull-through access.
The pull-through access is such a game changer. Let me ask you, are we finally past the dongle era of EVs?
I think we might be.
Because right now, public charging often requires what I call the EV parking dance. You pull up to a charger, the cord is too short, your charging port is on the wrong side.
It's the worst.
So you back up, you angle your car in, weirdly, hoping you don't block the next spot. And if you're towing a trailer,
oh, forget about it.
you literally forget about it. You have to completely unhitch your trailer, leave it somewhere else in the parking lot, and squeeze your truck into a tiny spot just to get some juice.
It's a terrible user experience and a massive barrier to mass adoption. What operators are doing in Warren is mimicking the exact geometry we've used for a century.
Right.
It's the immense psychological relief of a standard gas station layout. You pull in, you charge, you pull forward to leave, you never have to unhitch anything.
And it's not just the physical layout that's getting standardized either, it's the hardware itself.
Yeah.
True interoperability is finally here.
This is a monumental shift for the industry. So these new EVgo superchargers feature Tesla's Magic Dock technology.
Okay, explain that for people who don't know.
Basically, it means they can natively charge both older CCS vehicles and newer NACS vehicles, which is the Tesla standard plug, without the driver needing to carry around bulky adapters in their trunk.
Oh, that's so much better.
Right. And furthermore, these chargers are going to be integrated directly into the in-car Tesla navigation and trip planner.
And it works both ways, too. We're seeing documentation that the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is getting native NACS ports, what the engineering world calls J3400, built right into the car straight from the factory as of July 2025.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this standardization of the plug, combined with thoughtful real estate choices, completely changes the paradigm.
Mm.
You put pull-through lanes with overhead lighting at a grocery store where you can buy snacks and use a clean restroom.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking a novel technology and wrapping it in absolute friction-free utility.
Okay, so standardizing the plug solves the consumer's physical problem,
Uh-huh.
but it doesn't solve the grid's electrical problem.
No, it certainly does not.
Because massive flagship charging hubs with 500 kilowatt chargers are fantastic if you have a giant retail parking lot and millions of dollars to upgrade the utility switchgears.
Right.
But here is where it gets really interesting. What about locations where digging up the pavement is impossible? Or what if the local power grid itself is old, unreliable, and simply cannot handle a massive new electrical draw?
That is the big blind spot of grid-tied infrastructure right now. Installing traditional fast chargers means intense engineering. You're trenching through asphalt, pouring concrete foundations, waiting on city permitting.
It takes forever.
Forever. Plus performing heavy electrical circuit work and upgrading transformers. It can take months, sometimes years, to get a single site online. And beyond the construction, there are demand charges.
Demand charges. Let's break that down because I think a lot of people don't realize why fast chargers are so hard to make profitable.
Right. So whenever a megacharger fires up to deliver that 500 kilowatts of power to a vehicle, it creates a massive sudden spike in electrical demand on the local grid.
Mm-hmm.
Utility companies heavily penalize commercial sites for those sudden spikes with exorbitant fees called demand charges. It can make operating a fast charger wildly expensive for a business owner, even if the charger is in constant use.
Which perfectly explains why we are seeing a rise in off-grid solutions. Let's look at Beam Global's product, the EV-ARC 2020.
Oh, this is fascinating tech.
It really is. This is a transportable, entirely solar-powered EV charging solution. It fits perfectly into a standard parking space, and the car literally just parks on top of its base pad so it maintains ADA compliance and doesn't actually cost a business a parking spot.
And the operational specs are incredible. It
Yeah.
requires zero permitting, zero construction, and zero electrical work.
Nothing at all.
Nothing. Because it generates and stores its own solar energy, it generates absolutely no utility bill and triggers zero demand charges. And you can charge up to 6 vehicles simultaneously from one unit.
Okay, wait. I have to push back here.
Sure.
If I'm a business owner, how do I actually drop a functioning solar charger into a parking lot like a storage pod?
Yeah.
And more importantly, how does a solar canopy the size of a parking space gather enough energy to fast charge a massive EV battery?
Yeah, it sounds impossible.
Like the sun doesn't shine fast enough to pump 100 miles of range into a car in minutes.
Excellent point, and it comes down to the mechanics of the unit. The canopy isn't feeding solar power directly into the car. The heavy base pad that the car actually parks on houses a massive high-capacity battery storage bank.
Oh, okay, that makes so much more sense.
Right, so the solar canopy slowly sips energy from the sun all day, storing it in that internal battery. Then, when a car plugs in, the pad dumps that stored energy quickly into the vehicle.
Got it. And the deployment logistics are just wild. You literally drop it in. It can be moved short distances around a lot with a standard heavy-duty forklift,
Mm-hmm.
or transported longer distances on a specialized trailer. You literally drive it in, drop the engineered ballast pad onto the asphalt, and it is fully operational in minutes.
Yeah, and beyond just skipping the permit line at City Hall, it has a secondary function that speaks to a massive macro trend right now.
Yeah.
Energy resiliency.
Right. Because it is entirely off the grid, it doubles as an emergency power source.
Exactly.
The unit is wind rated to withstand 125-mile-per-hour hurricanes.
Mhm.
It is flood proofs up to 9.5 feet because all the critical electronics are housed high up under the solar canopy, safely away from rising water.
Which is so smart.
It is. And it features an integrated emergency power panel, which is essentially standard electrical outlets. So first responders or citizens can plug in critical equipment during a blackout.
This completely changes how we view municipal infrastructure. By decoupling the charger from the grid, it transforms from a simple amenity into a critical dual-use asset for communities during natural disasters or rolling blackouts.
Right.
It's a working, revenue-generating asset during times of prosperity and an absolute lifeline during an emergency.
And there is structural support to get these deployed right now. Federal funding via the Inflation Reduction Act provides direct payments to help communities deploy these specific units, and that's drawing from a $7.5 billion allocation dedicated to EV charging networks.
Oh.
So the capital is actively flowing to make these pop-up grids a reality.
So we've looked at how the physical hardware is maturing, we've seen how hybrid sales are bridging the gap, how the physical plugs are standardizing to eliminate consumer frustration, and how grid constraints are being bypassed with off-grid solar. The hardware infrastructure of the future is becoming highly practical.
Which brings us to the software side of the equation. Because autonomous vehicles are making the exact same leap from, cool venture capital funded tech experiment to a viable revenue generating business.
Right, which brings us to the latest developments with Zoox.
Zoox. Yeah, so they're an autonomous ride-hailing startup owned by Amazon. And for a while now, they have been running a free pilot program for the public in Las Vegas and San Francisco.
Right, racking up over 3 million miles of real-world testing.
Exactly. But as of August 10th, 2026, the free ride is officially over. They're charging for rides in Las Vegas.
And what's crucial to understand about the mechanics of Zoox is that these aren't just retrofitted Toyota Highlanders with a bunch of LiDAR sensors strapped to the roof.
Right, not like the early test cars.
Exactly. Though they do use those conventional vehicles to map the cities initially. But the actual vehicles carrying paying passengers in Vegas are purpose-built robotaxis.
This looks so wild.
They do. They are pod-shaped, symmetrical vehicles with carriage-style seating facing inward.
Like a train car almost.
Yeah, exactly. There is no steering wheel. There are no pedals. It is an interior space purely designed for the passenger experience.
So what does this transition mean for the consumer's wallet? Because Zoox is rolling out what they call optimized pricing.
Right.
You get a fixed upfront price based on the optimal route from your pickup to your drop-off. And here's the kicker. Even if the pod encounters a massive traffic jam or has to take a longer detour to avoid an accident, your price is not changed by a single cent.
This raises such an important question about consumer trust, and optimized pricing is a brilliant psychological hook to solve it.
How so?
Well, if you have ever taken a traditional taxi in a new, unfamiliar city, you know exactly what meter anxiety is.
Oh my gosh, staring at the little red numbers climbing higher and higher while you just sit trapped at a red light.
Exactly. Wondering if the driver is intentionally taking the long way around the airport to run up the fare. It's a deeply stressful way to travel.
It really is.
Mhm.
So by offering an ironclad fixed upfront price, Zoox is completely removing the friction and anxiety from the transaction. You know exactly what you're paying before the doors even open.
Right.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure, go for it.
People love free stuff. Tourists and locals in Vegas have gotten used to jumping in these futuristic pods for free as part of a massive pilot program.
Sure.
Now, Zoox is positioning their fares competitively with a comfort tier of ride-hailing services. We're talking prices similar to Uber Comfort, which is generally 20 to 30% more expensive than the standard Uber X. Why would a consumer willingly pay a 30% premium just to ride in a pod without a human driver?
Well, moving away from venture capital subsidized freebies is the ultimate acid test of any new technology, right?
Definitely.
But the premium price tag is justified by the utility of the space. You aren't just paying for a ride. You are paying for a private, pristine, predictable environment. You can take a confidential business call without worrying about a driver listening in. You can decompress after a long flight without having to make awkward small talk. The value proposition is privacy and consistency.
And they are bringing that consistency directly to where the users already are, too. Zoox has a multi-year partnership to integrate directly into the Uber app.
Which is huge.
Yeah, it will be available as a booking option on Uber in Vegas later this year, and they're expanding into Los Angeles by 2027. So they aren't relying on tech enthusiasts to go out of their way to download a separate, standalone Zoox app.
No, not at all.
They're placing their premium predictable pods right into the digital ecosystem where millions of people are already buying rides every single day.
It is the normalization of the extraordinary. It's moving from being a flashy tech demo at a convention center to a self-sustaining business with positive cash flow.
But we have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's kind of synthesize what we've learned from all this data.
Sounds good.
We started by looking at how hybrid sales are acting as this vital, highly practical bridge for consumers who want fuel efficiency, but just aren't quite ready to navigate the pure EV landscape.
Right. And then we examined how public charging infrastructure is finally maturing to meet mass market expectations. The industry is moving past awkward parking dances and fragmented plugs, and they're shifting towards standard gas station-style pull-through superchargers utilizing unified connectors.
Yeah. And then we explore the mechanics of how communities and business owners can completely bypass grid limitations and multi-year construction delays with those pop-up solar-powered charging pads.
The Beam Global ones.
Yeah, units that literally store the sun's energy in their base to fast-charge cars while doubling as emergency power banks.
And finally, we saw how autonomous software has graduated from free public experiments to premium commercialized services, integrated right into the ride-sharing apps we already use daily.
The overriding theme here is that the future of transit is no longer this sci-fi concept sketched on a whiteboard in Silicon Valley. It is a rapidly maturing business sector that is suddenly hyper-focused on pragmatism, physical utility, and the everyday user experience.
The messy construction site is finally turning into a highly functional, livable house.
It really is. But before we go, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over, something that bridges a few of the mechanical things we discussed today.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We now have these Beam Global off-grid, flood-proof, solar-powered charging pads that require absolutely zero human intervention to operate or connect to the grid. And we also have Zoox's fully autonomous driverless pods constantly mapping our cities and navigating traffic.
The convergence of those two specific technologies.
Exactly. How long until these systems merge? Imagine a future blackout in a major metropolitan city. The central power grid completely goes down.
Which happens more and more these days.
Right. So instead of transportation grinding to a halt, a fleet of robotaxis automatically detects the grid failure. They seamlessly navigate themselves to these distributed off-grid solar chargers to power up.
Wow.
Without a single human dispatcher needing to coordinate them, they form a decentralized emergency transit network, moving first responders or ferrying citizens to safety, entirely powered by the sun, while the rest of the city is completely in the dark.
That is incredible to think about. It takes the concept of stationary energy resiliency and makes it mobile. That is a profound implication for the future of urban planning and disaster response.
It really is. It shows that maybe that sci-fi movie isn't so far off after all. It's just being built one practical, quietly brilliant piece at a time.
Well said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the world around you, keep looking past the headlines, and we will catch you next time.